all the time.
There you
I'm
go.
gonna start. I'm gonna start right now by saying, I wonder, do you have people that support you with money, like when they watch these things?
I would say people pay through Amazon through my books, and I get a $5 cut. People will
Do
often
they?
send, yeah, mostly it's coming from Amazon. It used to come from Bandcamp when I
My
used to do music.
my point, my big point there is, if you're not doing something to support this, just tune out. I don't want you watching or listening for free, because you could at least like it or put a comment or share it or do something. But I come from the original generation of people putting content online, and we all participated, and that's gone. Like, motherfuckers are just parasites now. They watch things, they consume without giving anything back. At least
Right.
shit in my hands after you consume my fucking tacos, my tacos. But I'm just like, it irritates me, like when I see things not being shared but being watched or liked, or it's anyway. I'm done with that rant.
You have a point there. I mean, today everything's taken for granted. I
Yeah.
was just on a show last night, the Machine Lies show, and it's a small channel. He has the same amount of subscribers, but only got like, 40 people watching. Like it's a bizarre public access TV show in 2024. And we'll record it for just 4 or 5 hours nonstop, and we'll just treat it as a Google Hangout. And if any money is given to Machine Lives, it's through super chat donations, which I guess Google takes a cut of $3, and then he'll have $5 or $20 at the end of
Right. I'm not
three
even asking for
hours.
money. I'm asking for a like or no like or fucking hate. I want participation. I don't even want you to like me. Like, put the thumbs down on the fucking thing then. Participate and say you suck. But there has to be an exchange here, or you're a parasite. And I hope you're proud of your being a parasite, I guess. You should walk away feeling that you're a parasite, and then just wear that badge as a badge of honor. Like, I'm an online parasite. I just consume things without doing fucking anything. So it's
Right.
like, you know, that's all I'm saying is, like, have an exchange here, like some sort of exchange, and
It's
it's
it's more
your generation and the younger. I don't know about, but I just know I'm irritated. What generation are you? Millennial?
millennial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
irritating pricks. And that's part of it. Like, and then also, I'll give you another funny rant. You guys have, like, we got rid of the pop up. Like, when you sign onto a website and something pops up, what is that called? Like,
It's a pop-up window that was like
yeah,
90.
we got rid of that. We boycotted websites that had that. We were like, we'll never go to your website again. Now it's back, and everyone just seems to love it. And I'm like, you guys suck. Everything's going backwards.
Or like YouTube ads or something. Or it's like the pop-up ad reinvented itself as the hyperlink, where it's just websites to discover. It's the illusion of discovering new things on the internet when it's really just a TikTok distraction.
As I was
And
cleaning up, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
a long story short, I think you're talking about the DIY ethos of like the ideal that DIY is a part of a community and everyone has a part in it. It isn't just a passive audience. You have a say in the changing of things. And if there's no participation, then DIY is dead. It's just, like you said, parasitical, parasocial activity where I could be somewhere else, isolated from everyone, consuming and knowing things in a dark library.
I think that's
And
what you're talking. That's what you're hearing. I'm just talking about, like, the idea. Like, we can go back to three channels on TV. People would talk about fucking Happy Days. I know people don't know what Happy Days is. It was a TV show where some guy went "a" all the time. That was the big line, "a." But that would people would talk about that, and that's how it became popular. And people would talk about things and make them not popular. But there was a conversation. There was a talk. There was something. There was an exchange going on for that. We gave our time and watched these TV shows. Therefore, we spoke about them. We communicated about them. We bought a TV guide and circled the TV guide listings and said we want to watch these. And so that isn't happening. People are just on here isolated and consuming things without any kind of conversation. I mean, perhaps they have a chat going where they're like, Shane's fat, fucking Pilleater's an idiot, and they have this private chat going. That's fine, but there's not. I guess there's an exchange going on there, but there. When you look at the algorithms and everything, there's nothing happening. There's no likes on Twitter. There's no sharing, but there's consumption. You can see it being consumed. You can see it being watched, and so the engagement, let's say, as you say today, versus the consumption is way off versus when TV was started, this kind of exchange, or radio. That engagement is gone. Like radio, when people had a call in for, on the radio stations, AM, let's say, that people called in, there was engagement. You don't have that as much right now. And it becomes like, for me, I feel like it's an ego thing. Like I'll listen and I'll consume it, but I'm gonna shun them. I'm not gonna engage with them. I'm gonna, like, there's this it's parasitic in a way, but it's like this dominance and submission thing. Like they feel submissive if they speak about it or share it or something like that, and they're above it, but they don't do anything to be above it. They're just consumers. They're not creating. And so there's like an animosity for creators or smart people. I see yourself as a very smart person. The friend, I forget the friend that you have. I'm sorry about this stuff. It happens with age. Your friend that you did an interview with, he does it.
Cartrell Payne?
Who was that?
Cartrell Payne? Was it Cartrell Payne? I'm not so sure if it was
There's
Cartrell.
a gentleman online that you guys go back and forth with. Anyway, you're both smart guys. You guys
Robert
did it.
Sark.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, really smart people, really, really intelligent. Now, I don't know where you're coming from. Maybe you guys are racist and that's why people block you or some shit, and I don't get it yet, which is fine. But my point is that you guys deserve some engagement. Like, you guys are super smart. And I think that super smart thing is what drives this parasitic, like they consume you, they are inspired by you, and then they run off and ignore you. They pretend they ignore you. They don't give
They
you the light.
pretend.
Yeah,
They
they pretend.
pretend.
And
That's the
I have
big
the same.
thing.
I have the same problem, and it irritates me. And before this prevailing culture of the internet, when we still had newspapers, I could game the system. I could say, Pilleater could go ignore me. I'm like, yeah, fuck you. I'll get in the newspapers anyway because I can game them. I can send out a press release. They'll do a story on me. So fuck you. So I was able to float around and not give a fuck about I didn't have to cater to people. I was still getting game. And now they fucking throw up roadblocks for people that they are parasitic to. They riff off of us. They take our language. It seems like you and your friend Robert have a different language, or you're creating words or putting ideas together, and 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 so that, and I think people are probably riffing off of that and taking those ideas and running with them in a bigger forum where they get
Culture vulturing, right?
right,
Using
right, like exactly what I'm saying. So it becomes like that we have, it's on a large scale now, and it's really irritating to me. So my point is, if you're that person, if you believe in any kind of religion, I'm a Satanist. I got ties with Anton LaVey. I'm cursing your ass. You're gonna have anal fissures. You should tune out, go away, leave. Anyone else that likes this should support it somehow, just by sharing it, whatever they can. I'm not asking for money. I
I,
am. I want you to buy our books,
I
but
think the problem is people don't use citation or they don't care about
yeah,
citation.
right.
And I think the reason why is that's political to citate. If they were to just say, oh, this is by Shane Bugbee, then the guilt by association people who are gang stalking you or you're on a shit list, they can't use that. But suppose you say something incredibly truthful, they have to cite you. So what are they going to do? They're going to create a variation of what you're already doing. So
Oh,
let's say if me and Robert are doing the talking, and this is where originally it came from, we're not cool. So we're on a shit list.
no, you guys
So
are
somebody,
cool. No, you get no, hold on. You guys
I
are
mean
hip.
that in a facetious way, but
Okay,
yeah,
great, because I am cool and I know cool, and the forefathers of cool told me I was cool. Black Panthers, White Panthers. I'm telling you, you guys are cool. Like, you guys are part of that.
thank
That's,
you.
yeah. I get you're being facetious. Okay, I get. I guess I didn't catch that, but that's my Oscar.
Well, the point is there's a market and some celebrity is going to come in, culture vulture it, and then the same things you were doing back in 2016, 2017, by 2024, it's now quote unquote mainstream in this niche market that's about to explode with like 10,000 followers. But of course, if the guy that had 1,000 followers doing it, oh, that's a schizophrenic. Don't talk to that. Even though I'm pretty sure the idol in power had some connections, had acknowledgement that you do exist, but is afraid to speak of your name.
Yeah.
So it's something in consciousness for
On a
sure.
side note, how do you like my new vest?
I like it. It's like Curious George, the man in the yellow vest.
Curious George. This is a nice beige.
It's like you wearing yellow, and it's just like a style
Beige.
that you
It's
wear. Beige.
beige. Let's
Okay, it
get
looks
this clear.
yellow on the computer with the tint. So
I don't have a problem with yellow, but this is a beige. And I'm just saying, I'm in my vest ponytail stage of my life. I'm old. I have to find enjoyment with vests.
mm. I'm
And
just wearing my white t-shirt. Sunday, leave me alone. I'm in the basement. I don't care. We're filming it DIY style, and
feel you.
that's kind of the thing I
I,
love.
I was your age at one time, and you get to this age, and there's this typical things I think. And I was thinking this morning, I was doing dishes, and I was real irritated about talking to you, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, I'm just fucking irritated about, and I'm getting to be a grumpy old man, and I'm like, what the fuck am I so grumpy about? This is cool, you know. And I'm thinking, oh, I think the idea, like when you get to be a grumpy old person, it's because you're not oblivious to the fact that your time is done. Like my time is limited. I'm gone, and I'm pissed off that I'm going to be gone. Let's say 20 years. Let's say I get another 20 years. That's still not enough time for me. So it's like I'm starting to get pissed off by it. Like I'm like, motherfucker, like I want more. And so I'm angry about it. You know, no matter what I would have, no matter, and my life has been pretty fulfilled. I'm angry. My life is ending. And I think I'd be grumpier and grumpier as I go on. And in a funny way, in a jolly way, though. I'm sort of taking, you know, but so yeah, you wear the vest to compensate. You know, you get put the ponytail. I wear funny glasses now, or fun glasses, and I wear cool shoes because I have to compensate because I don't have the youth where I could just dress in my t-shirt, jeans, and you know.
And according to the psychologist Eric Erickson,
Oh,
he
fuck
had
you
this.
with your citing bullshit like that.
So Eric Erickson
I'm
about
joking.
the psychosocial narrative ideals of life. So he says there's a psychosocial narrative. He believed that in each stage of life, supposedly in a century, suppose you live to 100 or close to 90,
Let's say,
there are
will you bless, will you like give me some theosophy thinking and give me to 100. Think positive, right?
just so let's just do on an average. Just say
You're
on an average,
I'm gonna
everyone
we'll
lives to
just say it though.
90.
You say Shane, you're gonna live to 100.
You're going to live to 100,
Thank you, thank you,
102,
thank
102.
you.
Let's just
102
say on an
years.
average, people live to 90, 100, okay? According to Eric Erickson, every 10 years, there's a life stage decision a person has to make within a decade. So in the infantile stage, if they're 0 to 10, either they make a left-hand path or a right-hand path. So there's this kind of
Ooh,
Jungian magic to it. If they take a
ooh.
light-hand path, they become more positive. If there's a dark-hand path, say they had abusive parents or they think about this, therefore, like domino effects, it reflects to the next psychosocial narrative. So now 10 to 20, then 20 to 30. And so Erickson believes that we should be looking at psychology as people making these choices every decade in their life to get where they say now in their 70s. And why would they make these conclusions?
I love
And
that.
so yeah, Erickson was very detailed on that, and he said that a lot of social problems when we talk about generations are simply people dealing with what he calls psychosocial narratives. That maybe people in their 30s immediately have dreaded anxiety, and they immediately have to have a child, and immediately have to have a
Well,
wife because of something that happened in their 20s.
two
So it reminds me of the things what you're bringing up. Yeah.
two things, and I hope I can remember them both. One is when you cite things, and the other is, oh fuck, I'm already forgetting it. Oh, 10, the 10-year thing. I thought that on my own without this without the book smarts you're having there with this. I thought that myself. I would talk about like weeks shouldn't be 7 days, they should be 10 days. I think we run in 10 cycles of 10. And I said that I think 10 years is when I was talking more about like cellular change, like change, growth, more hair loss. You notice things in blocks of 10. And then I was like, and our week should be, because I was able to at some point not work a 7-day week. I was working for myself, and I noticed my natural cycles were 10 days. Like it was 10 days where I was able to take a rest. It was 10 days when it was like it was 10 days, not seven. Seven broke everything up in a weird way. And it was also like I worked 10 hours. 8 hours wasn't good. It was 10 hours, right? So it was like all 10. So that's weird. That's anyway, there's my weirdness. And then the other idea was like when sometimes when you cite things, I'll say something and you're like, well, that is what Carl Jung said. I was like, no, I always want to tell you, like, no, that's what I said. Fuck him.
Right. I'm my citation. Where's your citation? I am.
Yeah,
That's classical.
yeah, that's me.
That's a
So
very classical position to have. Yep.
is it?
Yeah, I think the genius has to say, I am the your citation. You're citating me.
That's good. So where's your education come from? What have you studied?
I
I
was
mean,
pretty privileged. I was
technically,
pretty privileged. I hold a graduate degree from School of Visual Arts in critical theory and art journalism, and I'm debt
nice.
free. So yeah, and that's the plausibility that I would go to get my PhD somewhere, but I have a child, so I want to focus on that. And
Fucking
my
cool.
job, yeah, my job right now, though it's 50 plus hours, I kind of like being a teacher and all that stuff. So
So who do you teach?
little kids, like kindergarten, like black kindergarteners.
Did you say black?
Yeah.
Why did you
Like
why did you qualify it?
because I think it's a different culture. Most people can't do that. And it's a different way
Most
of
people can't do
black
what?
children.
Most people
Like
can't do
most people can't teach like inner city kids, black
okay.
kids out and
Okay.
like well we're
Gotcha.
not talking about educated black kids. We're talking about like inner city like
Got you. No, it is a different color.
a different culture and they're lacking and people don't want to do it, but it's fun when you do it.
Even and you got and I would say even with the educated black folks I know, they're not that far removed from the ghetto, from the hood. You know,
Right.
they're connected, where there are plenty of white people that are disconnected from white trash culture. You know,
Mm-hmm. It's
interesting.
just a different education style because most white liberals stay with white peers of an older age, but it seems
Right,
like everyone gets the end of the stick and nobody wants to do black high schoolers or black middle schoolers because it's a different culture and oh it's violent, oh they don't want to learn. I don't think that's true. It's just a different methodology to it.
right,
And
right.
it pays higher. It actually pays much higher. So I
Wow.
enjoy that.
Because it pays higher because no one wants the
No,
gate.
not that it's paid higher. It's because I like the position, what you're doing. You learn something every day. Maybe fights will break out, but you get to be in the center. You get to get in arguments all the time. You get to raise your voice, but not in a bad way. You get to see action and you're kind of doing everything all at once.
And at least you know when you're going to get shot there. There's no one
Yeah.
going to sneak into the school and shoot it up. They're going to be like, "Motherfucker, you done. I'm going to shoot you."
It could happen, but you just have to prepare for it. And they always tell you that. So,
Yeah,
but no, it
they're not going to have
hasn't happened.
the crazy school shooter. Like all of a sudden they plotted and snuck into the school and shot. In urban areas, they let you know, like, yeah, you're done. I get you at your home.
Hmm.
In Chicago. So
But
we have
if I just keep
less.
doing that, I mean, I like what I'm doing and I could climb ladders, but at the same time, I could also get enough money and then just pursue PhD somewhere else. But I kind of like it. I'm not complaining. It's good and it's pretty nice. If there's other opportunities, okay. I think I rolled the dice right now and it's a pretty good position at the moment.
You
It's
say you
better
come.
than white collar bullshit, but yeah.
I feel you. You say you come from a place of privilege, so I would assume your family has money.
Yes.
Right. So you can do these jobs and have a cool life. That's cool. You're taking advantage of it.
But
And
I acknowledge it because most people don't have
I
what I have.
I
That's the
love that you
problem.
did that right off when I asked you about your school and you said I'm privileged. And I appreciate that because that's an irritant with me. I do this thing online called Truth Court. And I recently had something I said, well, schooling's a place of privilege. And this guy started arguing with me about it. I'm like, how can you even argue that, man? Like, have a formal education is a place of privilege in this country. He's like, you can get education everywhere. I'm like, you're such an
You
asshole.
can
You,
in a
you,
weird way.
but you can't. There's hidden
Yeah.
knowledge everywhere. There is
Right,
hidden
right.
knowledge. There's a reason that there's gatekeepers at Harvard. They have knowledge there that is not online. He said you could take classes, the Harvard classes. I go, I've taken them, and those are sales courses. He goes, what do you mean? I go, those are meant to sell you on going to Harvard, but there's not much there. They're very base. I've
Right.
taken 15 different Harvard X courses. They're fun, but they're remedial. They're you can probably get better classes on YouTube than you can on Harvard X. So Harvard X does that to spend money to promote themselves, but it's not full courses. You're not getting a Harvard degree for free. It
Right.
doesn't carry any weight. So anyway,
There's a bunch of other institutions you not just Ivy. There's like other different leagues you can choose from. It doesn't you could just be like Seton Hall, New Jersey or
well, I get
Rice in
that,
Houston.
but I'm using that as the
Hmm.
big example. The
But it's
what?
all true. It's just Harvard's so overrated. Nobody trusts it anymore.
Yeah, but you also need like when I see schooling, modern schooling now, I think about like how can it change? Like libraries, they need to change with the times. And so when I think of schooling, I think how obsolete schooling as it is or was It is and is going to be a thing of the past. It was we still need guides. We need an educated guide to go what you're reading there. There's a balance there. There's a contradiction here. You want someone to challenge you that has a huge education, who's read all the books, and because you can float around online and get some sort of an education. And you're talking to someone who dropped out of high school the day he turned 16,
Hmm.
junior high school, whatever it was. And I went after my education on my own. I went and interviewed people. I went, so I have a very broad skill set and a very broad education. But I could have used some guidance with some of that stuff. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have taken me so long to gather the knowledge that I have. I would have gotten it condensed, and I would, you know what I mean? Like, I'm fine with it, but within the society, it's hard to apply that to a gig or to earn money.
People are more real when you just live day by day in your work and you help other people out. I think, for example, you kind of learn about the world not through facades or what's forcefully taught on a syllabus, but when you talk to people. So if
Right.
I'm talking to, say, elementary school black kids, and they're like, how come you, as a white person, like watermelon fried chicken? You ain't black. Well, it's not the point. Everybody likes fried chicken, watermelon, and macaroni and cheese. But how come does that make you black? It's like I like that, but if other people
Macaroni
they
and
must be
cheese is
black.
not a black thing. Macaroni
Yeah,
and cheese is a poor
they,
thing.
they would
Fried chicken
argue
is
about that.
a southern
Yes,
thing. Fried chicken is a southern thing, so southern whites love it too.
right. And I was bringing
Watermelon
that
is
up.
a southern thing, so those are southern things. Those are regional things,
And
not
then
black.
other students, black peers, bring up and talk about class, and it's not just about race; it's class. Can a
Yeah.
white person be black? Is there a white version? What makes Chick-fil-A more white than KFC? And you're having these conversation with 7, 8 year olds, and they
Now,
already know this.
I lived in a black neighborhood in Chicago, in Dixmoor, Illinois. It was real bad at like it was super badass. Like no one went there. No one in Chicago. It was far south. It was really horrible. And I didn't know. I ran away. My friend was, and he was a black guy, so he's like, "Come live with my family." So I lived there. It was really bad. Like I remember the first night I slept in the basement, and I turned on the light to go to the bathroom, and the whole wall was full of cockroaches. Now scampered when I turned on the light. And you wake up in the morning, the sink was full of cockroaches. And you have to scoop them out. So it was real bad. But the
Mhm.
difference, when you talk about difference, they would make fun of things, and the things they didn't have, they're like, "We don't do mayo. We don't do mayonnaise. You guys white
Right.
people do mayonnaise."
Classic.
And then they were like, "You know what? You're going to be fucking popular in this neighborhood." And I go, "Why?" And goes, "Because white boys eat pussy. We don't. We
Yeah.
like."
Oh yeah. It's a very
And that was
hardcore
true.
thing.
Like there
Yeah.
was a line around the block of when they found out white boy, there was like all they're like, "Dude, this is great having you here." I'm like, "Why?" Goes, "Look at all the women here. They're all hanging out at the Trice house." And I'm like, "What's up?" And they're like, "They're hanging out because you're here and you eat pussy." And it was true. Like he was aggressive like that. It was like wild time. But those are some funny things I noticed living in that neighborhood. It
And
was
yeah, it's just when you're in that environment, it's something the liberal world would not teach you about. In other words, the common people, even at 7 and 8 years old,
well,
know about advanced topics that it seems like it would be reserved for graduate school when really everyone knows this.
I think putting labels on things like liberal world like you do is just to be provocative. I don't know if it's just liberal. I think it's sheltered people who are afraid to communicate. Like, because I know plenty of people that are liberal union members that can communicate that stuff. And I know plenty of conservative people who cannot, because they're uptight. They come from this, they don't have values, they have morals. They have religious morals. And so they're afraid to communicate in certain ways. And so that's how I see people when they're afraid to communicate about race or race relations, stuff like that. But where are you living? You're living in
I'm
Pittsburgh,
in Philly. I'm in Philly right now
Philadelphia. Okay, right
for a
on.
bit. Yeah,
So you're in a mini Chicago.
you're right. Mini New York, Black New York.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so you get it. Yeah, and it's here we talk about things like this because we're as much as what someone in Pacific Northwest would hear as a racist, and it would be a word or a thing. Here we can communicate because we're jowl to jowl on the bus. There's no, you couldn't, you ain't getting away with that shit here. You wouldn't get away with being prejudiced here. You,
Hmm.
you wouldn't get away with it. Someone would knock your block off. But that you would hear people say, you goofy white boy, or you'd hear racial terms exchanged, and people would just laugh at them or shrug them off because it's a real conversation here. And
Well,
this
there's
very,
terms
I
of
don't know,
endearment.
is Philadelphia segregated? Pittsburgh, so,
Yes.
Philly-
Philly's segregated.
Philadelphia.
Whites are in the west. Yeah, Philly, whites are in the west, blacks are in the north. And it's always been like that. It's just like Baltimore.
Yeah, Chicago's a very segregated place too. But remember, this is where everyone, like the slaves escaped. They came to land of Lincoln, and Chicago was a big deal. So we have a very vibrant black culture here.
It's more like the terms of endearment in a different culture is not the same as one would think it to be. It's kind of like the black guy calling the teacher nigga. It doesn't actually mean you're black. It's more like I respect you enough to talk to you. I'm gonna call you nigga, even though you're not black like me, but this is how I see it.
I
So
felt
it's like a lot of people flip up on that and say, "Oh, you just said the no. I can say the nigga, but I'm calling you a nigga, even though you're not a nigga."
I saw this funny thing on TikTok just yesterday. The guy's like, someone said something to the black guy's like, "Can I say call you cracker?" And it's a split screen. The guy's like, "No, that's a hard R. You call me cracker, but not cracker."
Oh yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, hard arc. That's interesting.
And I remember seeing that exchange, Maxwell Street, the original Maxwell Street in Chicago. My my father's cousins, which I would call everyone uncle, they were just older than me. But it was like Ray and Mikey, and they were huge Chicagoan, big necked fucking leg, and they were legitimate leg breakers. Like they collected money. And so then we'd go to Maxwell Street, and they'd be like moving around, and then someone would say something like, you white boy, they said porch. They would say, have these exchanges going on. I'm like, this kid from the start was like, holy shit, like, oh my God. And they were just laughing at each other. But I heard those as really bad words because I was brought up in the suburbs. And my parents, my parents were fucked up, but they come from a religious kind of
Yeah.
weirdness. And so it was like, but the exchange was friendly, but vile, but fun. It was crazy, but they were friend. Everything was friendly. Anyway, I don't know where we're going with this, but
No, it's just I'm just talking about differences in culture. It's not just class or racial. It seems like there's this kind of basis where people can understand how one speaks in their own language. And it turns out you have more relation to the person you thought you were completely different of. In other words, I've had this conversation with Cartrell Payne. He's in Mississippi. He relates more to me and Robert than anyone else because he just doesn't know anyone who talks like that, even
is
though
that guy
Cartrell
real? Cartrell Payne?
yeah, Payne's he's in Walls, Mississippi. He's
And
near
interest. I thought that was one of your fake aliases or some shit. I was like, what the
no,
fuck?
he was he's the black kid. We've interviewed Jim Goad before years ago. Yeah, he's like
Okay.
the funny black kid with the glasses, Cartrell Payne from
I,
Walls, Mississippi.
I see
Memphis.
his photo, and he is just so outside of anything I'm used to seeing in that group of people that are appreciated goat or anything like that. So I thought someone was making a joke, and I'm not putting him down. I've had
No,
a
no, there's
with him.
video there, you can hear him. There's videos of
I've
him.
never
We've done
heard
video.
him. So I've only gotten emails from him, messages, direct messages, and saw the photo. And I'm like, is this a gag account? Like so
No,
a couple times I deleted him or blocked him, or I deleted him because I was like, this person's fake. Because
no, he's as real as the deep blue. He's in the Memphis suburb, and we talk every other day.
that's cool.
And he knows everything about me, everything knows about you and Robert, and he's been in contact with very much interesting people that unfortunately, either that made future podcast programs possible, or sometimes I ask Cartrell Payne, hey Payne, do you still have letters with Lydia Linder, aka Say a Song? It's like, oh yes, I do. And I was like, oh yeah, because she passed away. So that's why I asked. So sometimes, I'll ask Payne for particular information that he has. But yeah, he's there. And the point is he lives in the most black ghetto of Memphis, and he likes everything we do and understands. And that's kind of rare to come across. I guess that's what I was trying to make with the whole language. It's not a division. It's like it turns out we have more in common when you talk about something than it is there's a divide.
Depends. I mean, yeah, I guess I see things on a class issue. So there's more of a divide class almost across the board than there is anywhere else. I that's how I see it. And a lot of times that comes across as, formally educated people, stuff like that. It just is it's a whole different world.
I think I wrote this before. The 5 things common people in America can't talk about is probably race, sexuality, violence, work, and where you live. And I think those 5 things together, you just don't bring up in with normal people conversations because they get always awkward around those things. Why? It's probably because you could say Christianity, you could say a Puritan ethic, or just they never thought about these things. But I think it's just people want to live their lives as individuals. And if you were to say anything that's completely natural and human, I think that's when people start to break down because they think like it's irrational and not this perfected ideal, what they should. But really, these 5 things make up who we are, and we should be having constant discussion and philosophy about it.
Wow, that's heavy. I guess I suppose I've never I bring up those things all the time. I never think to not bring them up. I
Yeah,
communicate. Well, maybe that's why I have so little
it's
fun.
it's not a hierarchy. It's just 5 equal equated levels. It's like we can only know the reality from the space where we live, and then where we work
Right.
at ultimately determines who we are, the sex drive we
I
have,
feel like those
our
are
racial
ultimate
background,
reality.
and the
Like,
violence we pursue.
yeah, what you're saying is ultimate reality. So I'm always bringing up stuff like where I come from, Chicago. I was born in violence. So I try to explain myself in those terms or understand people in those terms, like where they're coming from, to be friendly with them or not. And I try to explain myself in those terms all the time. So I don't ever steer away from talking about that. I have to explain to people that's not part of my culture. Well, what is my culture? Well, it varies, but in a lot of ways, I'm a Chicagoan. I come from poor people. So all those things affect my relationships or my communication with people. And it affects my bias, how I see people. Um,
Mhm. It's
and
like the religious person is just going to be a prude about it and just say, "Well, don't you believe in something else?" And it seems like it's just a veneer to talk about major issues. Hence, like I think there's a power of Satanism to try to revert the Christian into thinking, let's get back to real subjects
well,
and real points than this.
that is the basis. And one day we'll talk about Satanism. I've been told. But that is the basis I have to explain to people about Satanism is it's realistic, not idealistic. And there's the point a lot of people miss with that idea is like the anarchists run off and run and call LaVey a Nazi and people see like people like Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dorn saw it when I was talking to them and they're like, well, it's Ayn Rand, it's fascism and stuff like that. And I go, no, it's not. LaVey was an artist. So he saw how America operated, and he just said, if you want to succeed, this is how the reality of the situation in America. This is the reality of our surroundings. Deal with it. That's what it was. He didn't say do these things. He's saying these things are being done. Accept this. This is how people are. In a lot of ways, this is how people are. And they might pose themselves as a good person or whatever, but you have to deal with results. Anyway, we can get into that another time. We have 3 minutes, so we're going to be cutting off soon and go.
Should we cut off now and
If you
just do?
want.
Yeah, because then we have the 10-minute break or
Okay,
something.
we'll
Let's
take
let's
it.
do that now and then take the break.
Okay, see you in a minute. All right.
So, how has if we just talk about if we think in terms of class, it's important because it's interesting because normal people I do understand think of class, but it always comes at the expense that there's some paternal responsibility in the higher class. I know what's right for you, and you can't do that. And those wrong people of the lower class who are teaching you are bad people. Let me teach you the right way so you can, recycle garbage, go to Starbucks coffee, and do other things that those wrong people wouldn't do. So I think what comes with class is the inescapable theory that there's a right way of doing things and there's a wrong way of doing things. Because if class is hierarchical, then it would mean that this is the right way and this is the wrong way, rather than everybody getting along like it's Holly in India or something.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that maybe liberalism or the really annoying white liberal based its premise on the ideal that I feel good that I'm in power, and I want to make other people feel inadequate, or I have the right to be condescending, and I want others to think like me. At the
Yeah,
expense, you drop your
I feel
authenticity.
yeah, that has nothing to do with liberals. It has to do with our social structure. The byproduct of education is security, and you're catered to. You're able to pay your bills. We are punished within our society, and we have examples of our fear. We fear makes us go along with that garbage. Like, look at these homeless people. That's what you'll become if you do not become like us. If you do not get this education. If you do not do this. And so, yeah, I think you're right about that. When I like dealing with certain people, like uh, with there was a guy, I forget his name. He did this book. It really pisses me off too. It's another anarchist guy, but he comes at me, does this interview. He's a professor,
Not
and
Zerzan.
no, it's this Sunshine Bee Bug or some bullshit like that. I forget his name. Neo Nazis and the Countercultures, his book. Um, but he comes at me and he's accusing me of all these things, like being a Nazi or being a Nazi sympathizer and all this stuff. And I said, it's funny, but I'm not doing anything different than you're doing. But because you have an education, you're able to say that you're one thing, and then because I come from plumber stock, you're able to call me these other things. But none of it's true. Like, I've been a journalist. You're actually taking my research, my research, and making a book out of it, and you're accepted and paid to make this book, taking things that I brought from the underground above ground, and you've created a whole career out of that. But I'm not allowed to do that. I'm the scapegoat. I'm the Nazi. I'm the Nazi sympathizer. I'm the ignorant person who platformed Nazis. But what you're doing by calling it neo-Nazis and the counterculture isn't
I
platforming.
see his book. It came out in May. It's Spencer Sunshine, Neo-Nazi Terrorism
Yeah,
and Countercultural Fascism. And yeah, it says right in the thing, he talks about Parfrey and Satanist
yeah.
Nicholas Schreck.
He
Yeah,
talks about me in there, and he goes on podcast now and says, I'm the honest one of all of
that's crazy. I didn't even know
them.
anything about this.
Yeah, he
This is
says
interesting.
I'm the honest one out of all of them. I'm honest about things. He's continuing to try to drag my name like I'm an honest Nazi or some shit like that. It's like, but like I explained to him, like the state's attorney of Illinois, um, that put Gacy to death, he got a hold of me and did all this weird, whatever. It's a long story, but at some point, I was talking to him. He goes, Shane, you're just a journalist. You're doing the same things that they do on America's Most Wanted. They just get paid more, and they're legitimate because they have an education, and they're taken seriously because of that. But you're not doing anything different than them, and that empowered me greatly, because I felt bad about myself at some point. I'm like, hey, I'm not promoting serial killers, and he goes, I know that. I could see what you're doing. And so, there people, you could say they're liberal or conservative, whatever. I mean, that's your problem. You're stuck with that stuff, I guess, to see the world like that. But it's educated people, for the most part, have to protect their domain. It was the same when social media, when the internet first popped, and we were calling it new media, not social media, new media. And we were all out there. There was all these plumbers being journalists, all these waitresses being doing journalism, videotaping. And there was a guy in line that was, fuck, I forgot his name, but he was one of the originals, and he was talking about journalism is basically, all journalism is someone on the phone saying, I see a fire across the street, and reporting it to someone else and telling them what they see. And he goes, that's basically what journalism is you're talking about what you're seeing. And so that's what he defined new media as, is, a lot of people going out and talking about what they were seeing, interpreting what they were seeing.
Mm.
And then when it was fun and people made fun of it, until it became a threat. And then when it became a threat, when satellite companies tried to launch satellite radio, and they had a real problem because podcasting popped at the same time, and it took down their profits. And Craigslist and new media was destroying newspapers and classified ads. Then the educated people, the educated filth, turned, and they started aggressively attacking podcasters, new media people, aggressively attacking them, saying what they were doing was wrong. They're damaging the fiber of society. Before that, we were clowns until we gained some sort of voice. And then it was we were damaging, we were doing the wrong thing. We were wrong. Like I think as you're saying, what we were doing was wrong, what they were doing was right. Even though there was nothing really different about it, except maybe for the fact that grammatically everyone couldn't keep up with them. Some people were using the wrong idea of there.
Mhm.
And so they were able to attack people on those things. But the content was
Yeah,
more
it's weird.
the content was more compelling than the educated person's content. And now let me finish.
Mhm.
And that became the weak spot wasn't new media. The weak spot is because funding with journalism declined and there was no more investigative journalism. There was no more journalists. It was writers who wanted to write books and make movies entered into journalism thinking that that was their foot up into getting into Hollywood. There was no more journalists out there. Journalists in the back in the day were journalists. They wanted to cover news. They were interested in covering the news for the betterment of humanity. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying because this whole Spencer Sunshine critique, it's just something it reminds it's weird because the entire thesis from what I'm reading at is that there's a far right Satanism to far right connection. And of course, anybody with a PhD or in academia is going to make that compare and contrast subject. And it shows you that, once you taint something as Satanism means X, it's kind of like you're saying, no, there's more to it. And he's just like putting it out there, and this was books only like 2 months old, and just saying, hey, listen, if you're a Satanist, you must be some kind of savage evil
Right.
person that wants to destroy America,
He's an
which I think
anarchist.
is just a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an anarchist tied into an anarchist group called Queer Satanic out of Seattle.
Okay.
They were tied into the Satanic Temple for a moment with the Black Mass thing. And I told, anyway, it's a long story, but these people are on the attack. And they want to attack. And I believe they're probably tied into some Christian groups, it looks like, from my research. But it's like that Spencer guy came to me and I tried to show him other things. He didn't want to, he wanted to paint this picture. He didn't want the facts. The facts remain that LaVey wasn't a Nazi, though he took it as this is a real political theory. This has power. He just was he understood what it was, but he didn't describe to it. So I went and talked to Carla, the last living person who saw the birth of Satanism that was alive and old enough to witness what her father was doing. She knew Tony before he became Anton, and
Mhm.
she was answering the phones for the Church of Satan. And so to talk to her about it, I got legitimate quotes and said, "Here, Spencer, I have a 4-hour interview with Carla. That this is contrary to the stuff you're talking about." He didn't use any of that. He didn't talk to Carla. He didn't talk to, he wanted to paint this picture for some reason. I
It
feel,
seems like he had a hit on Adam Parfrey too, so I
yeah,
just think that's pretty interesting.
I feel like I really do feel like COINTELPRO or some shit. Like he has another book out where he talks about tactics on how to hurt people that are right wing. And it's all COINTELPRO tactics. Whether he took them from them to use it against people or not, it's cop tactics. And I don't understand an anarchist that uses cop tactics to destroy people on small levels. And this person isn't going after judges. This person isn't going after anyone with power. This person is attacking people of low quality or low
Mm.
with no means. And he uses James Mason's book Siege as his example of this whole thing. Siege back in our day was taken as a joke, and James Mason was taken as a joke. No one took him seriously. What he
Right.
really wants to talk about is Might is Right, but he won't because Might is Right has wings. It's a hard book to argue about.
Yeah, you look at James's character and you watch him do Bob Larson, and they're kind of close friends, and it
Yeah.
seems like James will say anything like Jesus had Aryan superpowers that made him possible against, it's like almost like alien conspiracy theory and things like
Right.
that. And I do get that creative, like, yeah, this guy must be a prankster or something.
This is why, well, that's what I'm saying. This is why this Spencer guy's using him and using that book because it was taken as a joke and it's something you can laugh at. Where you can't laugh at Might is Right and you can't laugh at what LaVey did. You can try to defame him all you want, but what LaVey did was and is important and was taken seriously and is taken seriously. And this person's trying to take the steam out of it for some reason. And I can't help but think COINTELPRO and weird shit like that because and I understand what he wants to attack, which is the book Might is Right.
Right.
That's why he came after me, Parfry, and other people. The people like Boyd Rice, Parfry, me, the Church of Satan people, we didn't gravitate towards James Mason or Siege. I don't know why he's got us in this book with it. We gravitated towards Anton LaVey and Might is Right. That's not the book, though. The book isn't like these freaks came into this book, Might is Right, with Anthony. He's not talking the truth. He's actually blurring the truth or he's creating a different narrative that doesn't exist. None of us were attracted to James Mason any more than we were attracted to King Diamond. Like it was like entertaining or
It's
like,
like he wants to create evidence so he can say, listen, the truth is Satanism is just a veneer, a Trojan for
no,
Nazism.
no, no,
Therefore,
no,
yeah,
no,
that's what he
no,
wants to
wrong.
do.
No. There's evidence. He could already have that with Might is Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of evidence he could use to prop up that case. What he's doing is trying to take the steam out of it, make it clownish. He's attaching us to some bozo. No, that wasn't the case. It's Might is Right is a serious fucking book. There's serious shit, serious Nazis attached to that book. The book I published with LaVey had a serious Nazi in the back and the forward, and I dealt with the guy who wrote the 14 Words movement. None of that's being spoke about, but those people are serious, and those people had serious influence. The 14 Words reverberates to this day, so it's like working with that person, his Katja Lane, David Lane, George Eric Hawthorne, and Anton LaVey all at once. When I put that book together, Might is Right, it had a huge impact, bigger than I had imagined. And I didn't do it to prop up racism or Nazis. I did it because all these people had they were gravitating towards the same book. And when I read the book, there was a hard truth to the book that in my younger days I couldn't dispute. I was like, oh wow, this is really harsh. This is a harsh reality. It's a sad reality. And so I took it as a warning. Like I took it, like I remember on the 24-hour radio show that these people weaponized against me because I said the N-word and some racial things. Though I've never been prejudiced in my life, I've been racist, sure. But in that radio show, what they don't use is where I'm talking about the idea like, man, I wish I could print Might is Right for free in newspaper form and hand it to all the people in Palestine so they would understand what they're up against and deal with things in a different way, maybe. Because Might is Right to me was like, wow, this is what you're actually up against. This is like I said with Satanism and LaVey, it's realistic, not idealistic. And Might is Right was realistic, not idealistic. And so attaching us to James Mason is attaching us to clowns, to a clown. And there's no real attachment. So James Mason wasn't a prolific Nazi. He was someone who was taken down and worked at a Kmart deli. This all goes by like government disinformation. Like it's like, let's prop up James Mason, the guy we have photos of working at the Kmart deli and a total failure and a child molester, whatever the fuck they've got him on. All these bad things where, oh, look at him. He's not a success. He's a failure. He's a Nazi and a failure. And that's what you'll be if you're a Nazi and you'll be a failure. And they're not attaching it to successful people like the Ayn Rand stuff. They don't attach Ayn Rand to ever when they argue about it. They don't attach it to successful people that have been in Congress. That's what I thought when I was in high school. That's what high schoolers think. They attach it to shit to discredit it. But there's plenty of very successful people attached to Satanism that have nothing. No Satanist I know would have anything to do with racism. Like that's within LaVey's own words and in his rules. He's like, we don't hate anyone but stupid people. He talks about accepting everyone except stupid people. And when I talked to Carlo and I did this interview, we agreed like because I was given the authority to speak for Satanism by Anton LaVey when he made me a priest. He gave me the authority to speak for his book because I understood it. So communicating to Carla about that, when we talk about LaVey hated stupid people, but he understood that ignorance could be defeated, and stupid people were the idea of willfully stupid. They knew better, but they continued to do that. And so that's where he hated things. But ignorance, we're all ignorant of something, and we can overcome that by educating ourselves. So he wouldn't be against ignorance, but he would be against willful ignorance, which is stupidity. And so, but he doesn't want to talk about those nuances of what LaVey was an artist, and he saw society for what it was and reflected that within his artwork and within his book. They don't want to talk about that because LaVey's book and LaVey's philosophy and Satanism in general has pulled threads from the fabric of this shitty society and is pulling it apart. And it's working. Like, you see people debating Satanism now online, and it's that shit is working. He's pulled apart the fabric of society. And so these people, for some reason, are working at keeping that fabric together, yet they call themselves anarchists. I call them feds. I like the idea of, I like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
saying feds.
I'm a full Fed guy too. I think most of our enemies are Feds, PSYOP, CIA. I think that's
But
really what's happening now.
and I can build a circumstantial case against this guy, based on what he's put out. And like I like the idea of calling everyone feds and stuff like that. It's sort of fun hearing that. But
It's like a Robert Anton Wilson Illuminatus
yeah,
thing too. Yeah.
love, dude. But then there's no group that hasn't been compromised. If you're a group like an anarchist, whatever whatever group, you've been compromised, guaranteed that. Especially with mics everywhere on every phone. But this fucking guy is doing something that is so deviant, so outrageous with his education. I wish someone that was as educated would take him to task. But he won't debate me. He won't. None of these people, like when they talk shit about me, like these queer satanic people, I'm like, debate me publicly. I'm not going to do it on Twitter. You could easily win in Twitter world. Meet me in any forum. We can debate publicly and have it filmed, live streamed. I'll destroy you. Same with Doug from Satanic Temple. Same with this Spencer guy. If they're so smart, debate me publicly. I'm a dumbass. I'm a high school dropout. You can easily take me. Why wouldn't you debate me publicly? But they won't. They're afraid to do that. They're easy doing this kind of shit online and manipulating things. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm going off on a rant. I'm
No,
really
no, it goes with the theme that Spencer Sunshine is like a know-it-all. I know what's right. You're all wrong. These people are barbarian, evil idiots, and we have to eradicate them because they just want to kill us. And that's what I'm saying is the behavior of the goody two-shoe classist, in that it goes up to people, they condescend against those who don't have those things, and they just say this is what Satanism was really about. It's almost like a Trojan or a hijack to recorrect it for the current regime of now. And
right.
I think that's a part of the problem.
I think you're right about that.
They're the ones calling us stupid, but we're not stupid. They're
yeah,
like gaslighting you with an entire new semantic.
right. These are the Spencer's this kid who always wanted to be cool, but he doesn't understand. You can't create cool. You just are cool. You are born cool. Like LaVey talks about Satanists. You're just born this way. You're not created. You can't be a Satanist. You are born a Satanist. And I get that. Like, you're just born with this inquisitive nature. You're born with, there's just something different about you. And that's sort of like the hipster idea of old school world hipster idea, like the jazz musicians, zoot suit artists, the Satanists. They're just cool. Like, you just are cool in those respects. You didn't try to, you've stumbled into it. And usually cool is more painful than it is not, but it's still cool. It's more
It's a
interesting.
classist thing. If you want to live in Brooklyn, you got to get a PhD, follow all the orders, say who's the meanie, who's the genus, who's I call it anti-Americanism. They're trying to find who's the anti-American. I'm the pro-American, and I can live in New York and LA, and I deserve to be here. And everyone else is a genocidal maniac, and therefore we should wipe them out. And that's where the whole accusation of the Cold War Nazism comes in. So again, I think it's far from what James Mason is saying or anything you've brought up. It literally is, I'll do this for a paycheck for federal agents to make sure we clamp down on any, and that the system must act this certain way. So I do see that a lot in very different areas. And I did bring that up before on Twitter, maybe like a year or 2 years ago, that this connection with it goes without saying. I mean, I brought this up at least 3 times. I remember going to the movie theaters to see Hail Satan, and it just divided, saying, well, Satanism is this liberal thing. It's all about free loving hippies, and we're against mean people, and that's what it's about, or something.
Oof.
And I just feel like a lot of that was just a psychological operations of sorts.
It was absolutely that is not a legitimate documentary. It was made by Kevin and his friends. It was a propaganda piece. Like it's nothing in there was true. Nothing in there was true. Like I started the Satanic Temple with Doug before Kevin ever came into the picture. We spoke about this. And that's why I put out that book. And people can go buy that book, The Founding of the Satanic Temple, Their Secrets Revealed, on Amazon right now. You can go buy that. Go ahead and do that. There's a lot of great information in there. And so, but yeah, that whole film, when I went and saw it, I went and saw it with the filmmaker, and I wanted to yell at her, at the crowd. I was so furious about that film after I sat through it. I was like, I cannot believe this is what's happening with this. Like it just upset me on a lot of levels, and made me feel really bad about what I had gotten involved with these people. And yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it's like a train wreck in itself. It's like somebody, you make an art piece, and then it takes 20 years that you have fans, and then they make some documentary or some tribute, and the tribute piece is really not your vision at all, and in fact it's for somebody else or something of the current market trend of now,
oh yeah, it
and
was a
they make
rich
it.
kid buying in.
Yeah.
Like it's a rich kid buying into it. Kevin, that guy that he has big old school money or whatever, old money, and he bought in. And it's like they cut me out of the whole fucking thing, which irritated me on a lot of levels. But the one that I figured when I thought about the one that I can't leave behind is the artistic level. Like as a documentarian, I'm irritated by bullshit. So it's like, why the magic's in the editing. You could have included me in that film and made me look horrible. You could have destroyed me. So I sculpt this thing in a way that was so outside of what actually happened, and just create this propaganda piece was so offensive to me, because it's not the linear history of it. It has nothing to do with the history of it. And to watch who's duped by this look like all of my nephews, cousins, aunts, uncles, all fucking white trash people, to see all the juggalos of the world being duped by this fake documentary, a propaganda piece, is just infuriating to me, because I choose to use these forums and the media to tell a truth. Whether it's true or not, I'm not sure, but it's what I see, what I hear, what I interpret. And so I try to express those things. When I film people, when I do interviews with them, I try to get an honesty, let's say, not a truth, but an honesty. And to see an out and out calculated, manipulative piece of propaganda just confirmed all of my fucking anger towards highly educated people. Like they're a bunch of cunts that just are looking to be careerists and make money and climb a ladder. And I don't know how these people can look at themselves in the mirror. I don't know how that guy Kevin or Doug, I don't know how they can look at themselves in the mirror as pretending to be something that they're not. Like, how do you get up in the morning and go, look at yourself and go, hey, I don't, I'm not this person that people think I am. I'm not these things. It's like, man, I
I
want to feel
think
sad for them. I want to feel sad for them, but I'm so angry at it. But it's like, I feel sad for people like that. Like, when you only have one life, when do you actually live your life? You're living my life right now, Kevin. You're living our life, the lives of Boyd Rice or Adam Parker. You're living our lives. You're not living your life. You're living.
I think I was about to ask what's the entire point of the Hail Satan or Spencer Sunshine purpose? It seems like the purpose is just to make money and use everything as a commodity for something else that has really nothing to do with authenticity. And really what's happening is this ultra commodification of things where there's an aesthetic, an art direction, you take it, it becomes you, but it's so shallow, and it's just an ornament or something, or a chime you put on your hand or something. And I think this is what these people think. They can just live their casual lives in Brooklyn, have their Starbucks coffee, and then say a little cute little thing during a wine and cheese party with some new people they might meet.
I think it all comes down to what people are triggered by sexually. I think, and I don't mean bisexually, but yes, bisexually, but what they're triggered by sexually, what they're triggered within sexuality. There we go. Um,
It's a
where it's like,
psychoanalysis thing
well, these
or
people are
sexual.
these people are in high school and they're looking at the goths and the people that are wearing black, and they're turned on by it, and they want to be a part of that, but they're, for whatever reason, they're not. And so they gravitate towards, that situation, trying to figure out a way to be that. And so it's like, that's how I see it. They want to be
It's a
this.
very Rene Girard mimemic desire thing
Fuck,
of
fuck.
emulating it.
No, it's my thing. What I'm saying.
Like I know, I'm doing the same. I'm doing the Chicago style citation. Yeah, it's
Fuck
Bugbee's
Renee.
thing.
Fuck Renee. I'm joking, Renee. But I'm just saying, like, that's how I see it with when I look at Kevin or the sunshine guy or whatever it is, like they're just attracted to this situation so much, and they see it for this huge, sexy, strong thing that they want to hold them. So they attack it, and they want to, by attacking it, they want to be seen as that. Like, look, I beat up the bully, I beat up the strong, I fucked the good-looking goth girl. They want to be seen as conquesting this, conquering this, and it's like, it's pathetic to me. I don't. I think history has our backs always. I think people in the future will see this for what it is. I hope so. But at the moment, it takes the steam out of any kind of revolutionary movement. And I don't mean revolutionary in a violent way, even. I mean in a thoughtful way. LaVey and a lot of occult people, Theosophy Society, these ideas help people think beyond our society. Your friend asked me about how does Theosophy and Satanism tie together? And I was like, the study of humanity, and it's that the study of humanity, not out, and that brings us outside. The more we study ourselves as humanity, the more we're able to get outside the cage that we're in. Then that's this present society is this cage that keeps us controlled and oppressed and upset and losing hair and all these gross things that are byproducts of this society. And so, anyway, I digress with this stuff. I just am.
No, but that's a total normal theory. Sexuality and psychoanalysis. It's pretty much one of the hardest drives. Just like I said, people don't want to talk about the innate drive to sexuality and desire and becoming.
I know
Goes
mine
back
is
to Eric Erickson and the psychosocial development.
nice.
I do think that's true. I think people develop their sexuality in their preteens, teenagers, but they never start questioning it until their mid to late 20s. But if they did question it in their teen or early 20s, it's a very superficial thing. It's very
Ooh.
much like, oh, I have a preference. It's this. But then they don't contemplate until they're like 25, 24
If
on it.
they contemplate it, they suppress it as quick as they contemplate it. I don't
Right.
think people, I think people are walking around oblivious of their sexuality. Most people are, they're so repressed. I mean, they're not oblivious to it. They're guilt ridden over it. No
Yeah,
matter
yeah. The
what it
shame, the
is.
Puritan
No,
culture, that the Christian
no
Puritan that
matter.
shames you into it.
Yeah, no matter if you're sexualized Puritan, like you're like into very puritanical stuff, you feel a guilt about joy, which is obscene to me. That's why I think this attack on LaVey is outrageous, because it's like he wasn't racist, and he's just telling people to accept your lot in life and have as much fun as you can. If you're ugly, have a good time with it. If you're this, have a good time with it. Just accept what's going on. We have 10 minutes.
We can do it. We can cram in.
Okay, cram. Fist.
But yeah, that's it's I do think the shame culture is a huge part of our current state that we're under. That the part of the drive of a civilized society is to feel shame into things that's authentically you. And that's the problem, is that people won't find themselves if they have subconscious shame. Oh, is it okay? I like this kind of woman.
Oh,
Is it okay if I do? And then guess what? There's whole politics on it. It's irrational. Oh, you must have a fetish. And they
yeah.
do that. And it's a part of the problem right now.
In this society, it's easier to feel guilty than it is to feel joy, and which is obscene to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely obscene to
The
me. And I
Puritan
get it
ethic.
because I've lived my life the way I think, who I am. I can't help it, and that has caused me nothing but problems. And a lot of times I look back on things going, I didn't do anything but be myself. Like I wasn't even rude to the person. Like I didn't steal from them. I didn't call them names, and yet I was attacked, and I had to fight back. And so it's like I remember living in the woods of Minnesota, and these, I'm fat, but these fat fucks would come up there and hunt and just kill deer to get a fucking antlers or a head. And I was always like, you're only, and I remember talking to one guy, he's like, I'm up in a tree and he's like, and he's talking about killing the deer and how the deer's running around and he's running and running and running. And he kept talking about these freedoms that the deer had before he killed it. And I'm like, that's ultimately it is. If you show yourself as a free animal, a running around animal, people want to attack it. And I think that's why artists are attacked so much in our society versus a judge or a politician. People will attack Kanye West, but not a judge who's, off the rails and doing things that are going to affect all of us. They'll attack the artist because the artist is like like represents freedom.
I was yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand art. I think they think art is just some kind of, well, you're lazy, you're having leisure time. And that's the problem. There's more to it's a part of life is being an artist. And an artist is like almost a philosophical position to have. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
just expression. It's more like a life affirming mission to help other people and to contribute to a society to show a vision of what is possible. And I think many people, which I call the Philistines, they're against art. They just want some anti artistic society. Everybody's just following orders, doing their own things. And if you were to ever think of something intelligent or think for yourself, oh, that's bad. And that's basically the Philistine attitude of the world. They hate art and they hate the artist and they don't see the benefit of it. And so the Philistine resorts to weird theories of Christianity or something. And they believe that everybody has to have some boring Philistine taste in music and art and visuals and acting and preference. And it's really bad. It's just like the politics really should be about good artists and bad artists, or basically people who make the best art and people who don't even make art or just shun it, or and then we should divide ethics between that.
Yeah,
And because people who have bigger minds tend to make better art.
I think that's a great. I don't think there's a better or a bad art. I think there's art and there's not art. There's art and there's deceptive art, and then there's people who don't make art and don't. They just consume. They're parasites, and that's fine. They serve a role somewhere, but they're the ones the attacking the people who do make art. And there are artists, and then there are people who are charlatans. They want to be they're posers. They want to be artists, but they're not. But then there's artists that when you're an artist, you're gonna make bad artwork, bro. Like you're gonna make a lot of shitty artwork. You're not always gonna make good artwork. So artists should have the freedom to make shitty artwork and just go, yeah, well, it didn't resonate with people, or I don't like it anymore. I liked it when I made it. I don't like it. That's the way it goes.
It's a lot of
And
trial and error. You got to
yeah, so
keep doing
people
it until you make the perfect the form.
someone telling me my art's good or bad, it is like almost ridiculous to me unless they're buying it. Like buy it and then tell me how it wasn't worth it, what you spent on it, but fuck off any other way. And I judge myself. Oh, I love it one day, I hate it the next. I love stuff. So it goes all over the place. I thought I did it for this reason when I did it, but then I look back on it and I think I know what I did. And then 15 years later, I'm like, man, I don't even know what the fuck I was thinking. So I don't know about good or bad art. I know that there's fake art, there's crafts, there's things that look like art, there's entertainment, and that real art. Yeah, a real art. Like I think what you said, like a real artist, their job is they are philosophical, they are philosophers, they are philosophical, they are people who are
It's like
bold.
here's the thing,
They're
the
bold. Hold
Phyllis.
on, they're
Yep.
bold. It's hard to define artwork, but they're bold and they're able to have they have a say. They're going to have a say when something bothers them. They're going to say something about it, regardless of the popularity, regardless of how people are going to take them. And that's why when I look at Kanye, I'm like, people look at him like an industry, but he's still retained his artist where he says things that's like, holy shit. And he are shocking as an artist should, as an artist does. But people took it like he can't say that because he's an industry. He's a makes all this money, does all this stuff. So he's held to a different standard. But that's what artists do, is like they say something that is
Mhm.
gonna not
I
necessarily.
think the Philistine wants to control the artist. The Philistine
Yeah,
wants to say, you can't say that.
right.
Why are
The
you
Philistines.
talking about race?
Yeah,
Yep.
those are the people that are killing deers for antlers and a head on their wall instead of the food. I mean, they're
Right.
hunting for sport. They're the Philistines, right? I get that. Like, and then there's people who hunt and feed their family with it or eat it, and then that's just fine, to
But the
me.
Philistine, when you're expressing yourself to the fullest as an artist, the Philistine feels like he has the right to stop you and
Yeah, because
recorrect your speech, like political correctness.
right, and
That's the problem.
I love that. And then they're the ones because they're the consumer, they're the parasite. They consume it. So if they buy it, they'll just say, "Well, we won't buy your stuff anymore. We'll shun you. We won't buy your books. We won't support you because this is the way it is." And I'm the real artist here because I have a 2-car garage, I have a pickup truck, I have a boat, I have jet skis, I have a summer home. I'm the artist here, and that's what this society sees as the artist, as the top consumer, the person who has a summer home and 4 cars and all that shit. They're the artist in this fucking society, even though art, I believe, drives our society, not the consumer.
Right. Yeah, and I just feel like it's often a problem in politics and philosophy is that it's really the problem boils down to the artist's free will and free range to do whatever he wants, he or she wants. And it's the Philistine, like you said, the consumer that has to recorrect the artist's will. If the artist wants to do something and say something, and then the Philistine goes out of its way to break the peace and say, I don't like that you're talking about this. Why do you think that way? It's as if the birth of political correction is the birth or the assertion of the Philistine, which is a problem. So the attack rather shouldn't be against mean, evil people. The attack should be against, reiterating earlier, against these stupid people, the Philistine that will never understand art, get into it, and thinks they have this religious mentality to shut off the person who is brave and original.
What isn't politically correct, though, whatever politics, whatever political side you're on is correct. So it's like the phrase politically correct is weird to me, because it's like whoever's in power is politically correct. And that's just the way
Right.
it goes. And that has to do a lot. Anyway, we have 1 minute and 35 seconds left. Go to my
Let me go get something really quick, but go ahead and
We
say
got
something.
one minute. ShaneBugbee.com, artworkofprophecy.com. Go check out my LinkedIn and buy some books or support us somehow. Share this, like it, put a comment down, hate it. That's what I have to say. So, you can always just send me money too.
My God,
What is it?
it's my new book.
A hole in
It's
the wall. Is that a glory hole in the wall?
no, it's kind of like a play on the words, but Joe Nally, that's Pilleater, me.
Can't
But you
fucking
can't
see
see it
it,
in the
Paul.
film. Yeah, you can't see. But it's by Joe Nally, me. I'll have to put it, but this is my new novel. You can get it on Amazon. The filter's killing it off, but it's A Hole in the Wall by Joe
Put it in
Nally,
front of your
the
shirt.
novel.
Put it in front of your t-shirt. There you go. You can see it there. A hole in the wall. There you go. Stand up. There you go. Uh-oh.
Oh, crap.
Nice. What now? We got less than a minute. Say something about that book real quick.
It's a novel. It's 65,000 words. It
It's on
stars a
Amazon.
girl. It's on Amazon.com. It's about a
A hole in the
girl.
wall. Joe Nally, founding the Satanic Temple. Shane Bugbee on Amazon. Buy those books.
Buy it, and more info at www.pilleater.com. And this channel was brought to you by www.youtube.com/Pilleater.
Yeah.